Probability concepts, practice questions. Here you go, our first question, and that's where the real learning begins. Given the following table about employees of a company based on whether they are smokers or non-smokers and whether or not they suffer from any allergies, what is the probability of suffering from allergies or being a smoker? Suffering from allergies or being a smoker. So being a smoker means 60 and suffering from allergies, it is 90. What we are looking for a probability of suffering from allergies or being a smoker. We can write it as allergies, or give it in the right order. Probability of smoker or having allergies is equal to, since it's or, so use addition property, probability of smoker plus probability of having allergies. Since there are common areas as well, it's a probability that requires some intersection to be deducted. So it's going to be probability of smoker intersection allergies. Now we just have to extract the right numbers. Smokers, 60, whether they have allergies or they don't. Out of how many? 300. So 60 out of 300. Or means add, and means multiply. 60 out of 300 plus probability of allergies. How many people suffer from allergies? 90. 90 out of 300. And we have to deduct those that suffer from allergies and also they are smokers. So it is right here. 35. Those who smoke and also suffer from allergies. So 35 out of 300. So 35 out of 300, if you simplify all this, you should get your result. It's 0.38 or 38%. A. Next. The following table summarizes the results of poll taken of CEOs and analysts concerning the economic impact of a pending piece of legislation. Some legal changes are taking place. So how this legal change will impact the economic circumstances of the country. CEOs think it will have impact 40, and those CEOs who think it will have negative impact 30. Analyst 70 says there will be positive impact and 60 says there will be negative impact. What exactly are we required to do? What is the probability that a randomly selected individual from this group will be an analyst that thinks that the legislation will have a positive impact? Analyst intersects, thinks that this new change in law will have the positive impact upon economy. Think positive, in other words. So look at this table first. We need an analyst. How many analysts do we have? 130. But we need that particular analyst who thinks that the new legislation will have positive impact upon the economy. So it's going to be 70 out of how many? 200. 70 out of 200, that's 35% or 0.35. So that makes A to be the correct option. A it is. Next. There is a 40% probability that the economy will be good, 60% probability that it will be bad. When you see a question like this, I always recommend drawing the probability tree. Decision tree also works this way. There is 40% probability that the economy would be good and 60% probability that it will be bad. It will take time, but you will get the right result. If the economy is good, there is 50% probability of a bull market. There is 30% probability of normal market and 20% probability of bearish market. This was the good part of the economy. Next, if the economy is bad, that is 60% probable. There is 20% probability that there will be bull market, 30% probability that will be normal, and there will be 50% probability that it will be bearish. Now, this is the structure. You can find any probability from this arrangement. It says what is the joint probability of good economy and a bull market. Good economy and a bull market, you're talking about this leg of your probability tree only. Go no further. This is what you need. We could have done it straight away, but drawing out this probability tree will always help you in doing some complex questions. So 40% of 50 will give you straightforward 20%. That gives you B to be the correct option, and B it is. Next. Tooley Advisors Incorporated has determined 4 possible economic scenarios and has projected the portfolio returns for 2 portfolios for their clients under each scenario. Tooley's economists has estimated the probability of each scenario as shown in the figure below. These are the probabilities. Given this information, what is the standard deviation of returns on portfolio A? Standard deviation of returns. We just overlooked this idea in our overview slide, but this is the time now we learn it. See, what you missed in theory, what is little weaker in theory, it is recovered through questions. So we are talking about portfolio A. We need the standard deviation. 15% of 18%, 20% of 17, 25% of 11, and 40% of 17. This will give you the expected value of return, and doing this all will give you 11.65. Straightforward computation and their addition. We need to calculate the standard deviation. How do we do that? Conditional standard deviation. First, we have 15% probability. Return 18, mean return 11.65 squared. Take this in points, remove the percentage sign, plus 20%, 0.2 that is, remove the percentage sign. 17 minus 11, or 0.7 minus 0.1165 squared, plus 0.25 multiplied by 0.11 minus 0.1165 squared, plus there is a way that you can use your financial calculator to solve it, and I will tell you how you can do it. Plus 0.40 times 0.07 minus 0.1165 squared. This is the conventional way of doing it. Now, if you want to solve it using your financial calculator, that will be long, but I'll give you the idea. All these numbers can be divided with the highest common divisor of 5. We can divide all of this with 5. 5 3s are 15, 5 4s are 20, 5 5s are 25, and 5 8s are 40. Now, what you're going to do, in your stats functions, you will write 18 3 times. You will write 17 4 times. You will write 11 5 times. This is giving the weightage. And you will write 7 8. You will write 7 8 times. So 18 3 times, 17 4 times, 11 5 times, and 7 8 times. Once all these entered, you can calculate your standard deviation directly. So I don't recommend this method. If you're comfortable with this, use this. Else, if you find these numbers maybe 1 2 1 3 like these, then using financial calculator is okay. I've just given you the idea. It's totally up to you. If you want to use it, you can use this way. Else, you can use your conventional way of doing it. So no big deal. You can use whichever method you want to. So plugging in these numbers in the formula or in the financial calculator will give you the standard deviation to be 4.53, and that's your right answer. Next. An investor is considering purchasing ACQ. There is 30% probability that ACQ will be acquired in the next 2 months. If ACQ is acquired, there is 40% probability of earning 30% returns. If ACQ is acquired, there is 30% probability. There is 40% probability of earning 30% return. Let me just read all this. If it is acquired or if it is not acquired, complement. So if AC acquired, there is 40% probability of earning 30% return and 60% probability of earning 25%. So first, the main leg of the probability tree is 30% for acquiring and 70% of not acquiring. There is 30% probability of acquiring and 70% of not acquiring. If acquired, then there is 40% probability of earning 30% returns, and there is 60% probability of earning, given here, 25% return. If it is not acquired, the expected return is 12%. what we have to do. What is the expected return on this investment? You will simply roll this probability backward. What you will do, 40% of 30% plus 60% of 25%, whatever result you get here, you will multiply it 30%. Let me do it for you. 30% of 40% plus 60% of 25% gives you 27% here. Now what you will do, 27% of 30% plus 70% of 12% gives you 16.5. We just rolled it back. Just rolled it back, 27% 30%, 12% 70%. The combined result gives you 16.5. Straightforward. So this is how you can do complex questions by drawing the probability tree, plug in the numbers, roll it back to the origin, you get your result. Next. This is the one I think which you can use your financial calculator for. Joe Mayer CFA projects XYZ's company's return on equity varies with the state of economy in the following way. If economy does well, returns will be 20%. If economy is normal, this would be return. And if economy is in poor state, the returns would be 10%. The standard deviation of expected returns on this probability. Now, this is what you can do clearly. See, all of these 20, 50, and 30, they are all divisible by 10. So 10 times 2, 5, 10 times 5, and 10 times 3. It means you have to enter 20 twice, 15 5 times, and 10 3 times, and you can calculate your standard deviation directly. Let me do it for you. You will learn how to do it. This is what you have here. Second data, x120. How many times? Twice. Don't forget that. Enter. Y, don't change Y. Just x2 will be 20 again. Y will be 1. Now, done. Next, you will have to enter 15 5 times. 15 5 times. Two, 3, 4, 5. And then you have to enter 10 3 times. Right? Now, let's just check. 10 should be 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 15 should be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 20 twice. All is there, hopefully. Second, stat, one variable, and here you get the standard deviation of the population is 3.5, and that perfectly matches with your option C. This is what you can do. Else you will have this long arrangement of doing things. Whichever method you feel convenient with, it will do you good, simply. Moving on to the next question. See, it's all about the questions. When you practice, you will enhance your understanding. That's always true about professional certification. Jessica Fassler, options trader, recently wrote two put options. Put options mean option to sell, and call options are option to buy. We will discuss when you do the derivatives. Jessica Fassler, option trader, recently wrote two put options on two different underlying stocks, Alpha Dog Software and Omega Wolf Publishing, both of with the strike price of 11.5. The probabilities that the price of Alpha Dog and Omega Wolf stock will decline below the strike price are 65% and 45%. These are the probability of decrease in price respectively, and these probabilities are independent. These probabilities are independent. The probability that at least one of the put options will fall below the strike price is approximately. We are talking about one of these. It means either Alpha Dog or Omega stock will fall. So since it's OR, it's going to be probability of Alpha falling plus probability of Omega falling minus probability of Alpha intersects Omega. Right? They both might fall. So what you're going to do, probability of A 0.65 given of decrease plus probability of Omega 0.47 minus probability of both of these falling together multiply, since they are independent, so simply probability of alpha multiply by the probability of omega. So it's simply going to be 0.65 times 0.47. So if you just solve this all, you will get your result, 0.81. B. A bag of marbles contains 3 white, 4 black marbles. A marble will be drawn from a bag randomly 3 times and put back into the bag. Relative to the outcomes of the first 2 draws, since it's probability with replacement, the probability that the third marble would be white, will it be dependent, independent? Of course it's independent, because since it is with replacement, each draw has the same probability, which is not affected by the previous outcomes because the balls were replaced, so it is independent probability. Next. The following information is available concerning expected return and standard deviation of Pluto and Neptune Corporation. Expected returns on Pluto 11%, Neptune 9%, standard deviation of Pluto 22% and 30%. What are we required to do? If the correlation between Pluto and Neptune is 0.25, determine the expected return and standard deviation. If Pluto is 65% of your portfolio, this is the weightage to Pluto, and 35% to Neptune. Good question. What we missed in the theory will be done right here. Right? We have to first calculate the expected return on the portfolio. It was grossly missed in the theory, and here we have it all. That is the good thing about the question. So probability of expected return on the portfolio is equal to weight of Pluto, that is 0.65. What are the returns? 11%. Plus weight of Neptune, 35%, 0.35 or 35%, and return on the Neptune, 9%. Simply, this is your expected return of the portfolio. Solve this all, 0.65 times of 11, 0.35 times of 9, and you get your expected return of the portfolio, 10.3. That makes either B or C to be the correct option. It's not over yet. We have to calculate the standard deviation on the portfolio as well. What do we do? Was grossly missed. Well, right here we have it. The standard deviation of portfolio is equal to weight of your investment 1, which is Pluto. I'm going to use the labels used. Weight 1 squared, standard deviation the first squared, plus weight 2 squared into variance or standard deviation squared of the second portfolio, plus 2 times of weight of the first item in the portfolio, second one, multiplied by the standard deviation of 1, standard deviation 2, multiplied by the coefficient of correlation, which is given as 0.25. You have the formula with you, and this is how you apply it. You just plug it in the numbers. Weight of the first portfolio, the first item in the portfolio is 65%. So we're going to write 0.65 squared. Standard deviation is given as 0.22 squared, plus weight of 2 was 0.35 squared. Standard deviation is 0.13 squared, plus 2 times of weight of the first item, weight of the second item, multiplied by the standard deviation of the first item, standard deviation of the second item, multiplied by the coefficient of correlation. Solve this all, take the square root. It's a simple plugging in the numbers and getting the result. No science is involved. Once done, you will get your standard deviation 16.05. So just practice. You need to know what to take and where to plug it in, and you will get your result. Moving on, B is the right answer. The following table summarizes the results of poll taken by CEO and analysts concerning the economic impact of impending piece of legislation. This time it's different. What is the probability that the randomly selected individual from this group of 200 people will be either an analyst or someone who thinks this legislation will be positive for the economy? So either the individual selected is an analyst or someone who thinks positively. I think it's repetition, or is it? Okay, and it's a little different. Scenario is the same, but the requirement is different. Okay. So what is the number of people in favor of analysts? How many analysts do we have? We have 130 analysts. 130 out of 200. Or A person who thinks positively, an analyst, it says, read the information carefully. What is the probability that randomly we select a person from this group will be either an analyst or someone who thinks this legislation will have a positive impact upon the economy? These are the individuals who think it will have a positive impact upon the economy. We can't take 70 because it will be double counting. It has already been counted in these 130. It means we just need to take this 40 only. So it's 40 upon 200, right? But even if you take 110, you have to deduct the common part of 70. If you want to take 110, you may. 110 upon 200, then you have to deduct the 70 common part. So I've just taken that is specifically related to this. Otherwise, you may have to deduct the negative part. Solving this, 130, 40, 170 by 200 gives you 0.85. So there can be multiple ways of doing a question correctly, and that gives you A to be the correct option. Next. There is 90% chance that the economy will be good next year and 10% chance that it will be bad. Always advisable, draw the probability tree, which will help you along. Even in those Bayes form theorem, it will be very helpful. This probability tree, it will be great help for you. If the economy does well, there is 90% probability. Economy fares badly, it's 10% probable. Okay, next. If the economy does well, there is 60% chance that XYZ Incorporated EPS will be $4. 60% chance. And 40% chance that it will be $3 per share. Done. Now the second leg of the decision of your probability tree. If the economy is bad, which is 10% probable, there is 80% chance that XYZ Incorporated will have EPS of $2 and 20% chance that the earning will be $1. Now you have laid down the probability tree, roll it back. Roll it back, bring it here, you will get your result. What is the expected return? 60% of 4 plus 40% of 3. Whatever you get, bring it here. Let me do it for you. It's going to be 60% of 4 plus 40% of 3. That is 3.6. And then 80% of 2 plus 20% of 1. It's 1.8. Right? Now again, 3.6 times 90% plus 1.8 times 10% gives you 3.42. Perfect match. Laying down information in a tree, plugging in the numbers, rolling it back, and here you will get. Maybe sometimes you have to just see some part of the tree, but constructing the probability in this way will greatly help you to answer any twisted question that you might see. A company has 2 machines that produce widgets. An older machine produces 16% of defective widgets, while a new machine produces only 8% defective widgets. The new one has a defect rate of 8%, the old one has defect rate of 16%. In addition, the new machine employs a superior production process that it produces 3 times as many widgets as the older machine. Not only it's more productive, but its defect rate is also quite lower, almost half of the older one. Given that a widget was produced by the new machine, what is the probability it is not defective? It's a very straightforward question. Probability of getting a defective widget is 8%. So what is the probability of getting not a defective one? So it's simply 100 minus 8%, 92%. That's too simple. We have some complex questions coming forward, coming for you. So that's C. So quite a straightforward question. Moving on to the next one. Personal Advisors Incorporated has determined 4 possible economic scenarios and has projected the portfolio returns for 2 portfolios for their client under each scenario. Personal's economist has estimated the probability of each of the scenarios shown in the table below. Given this information, what is the covariance of the returns on portfolio A and B? Now this is the question that you should do, because we just skipped the theory. We didn't calculate any covariance. It's the time that you should do it. Now we have been given the 4 scenarios with these probabilities. We have been given the returns. We have been given return on portfolio A and B all. We have to calculate the covariance. How do we do it? For this we have to construct a table. Unfortunately, there is a way to do it using your calculator, but that will require putting 18, if it is divisible, all are divisible by 5. Putting 18 3 times, 20 4 times, 11 5 times, 40 8 times, And same these 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and 8 times. Using linear function of your financial calculator, you can enter 18, 19, again 18, 19, again 18, 19, then 17, 18, again 17, 18, again 17, 4 times this pair, 5 times this pair, and 8 times this pair. Once you enter, you need to calculate 2 things. You need to calculate the standard deviation of A, standard deviation of B, and coefficient of correlation R. We know covariance is just multiplication of these 3. If you calculate standard deviation of A, standard deviation of B, and the coefficient of correlation, multiplying all this will get you the same result. But as I said, it could be little messy for you to enter this data repeatedly. So what you will then be left with is to use this conventional approach. First, you will calculate the expected return for all, multiply these probabilities with the returns. It will return the expected return on portfolio A. You will do the same thing for portfolio B. You will multiply each of the probabilities with their returns and add up the result. It will give you the expected return on portfolio B. This is the first step you should do, calculate mean. I've given you the both methods, whichever you find suitable or comfortable, you can do it accordingly. Then, once the expected return has been calculated, the next step is to calculate the deviation from mean. 18 minus 11.65, 17 minus 11.65, all these deviations from the mean. And then same for B. That is 19 minus 12.5, 18 minus 5.5, and you need to right? So once the differences have been calculated, multiply these 3 tables, this, and this, and adding up all the result will give you the covariance. So you have 2 methods to use. Either you use the previous one using financial calculator, or you can calculate first ER and then calculate the deviations and multiply the deviations with the probabilities to get your result, and there you go. Whichever method you feel convenient with is entirely up to you. Next one, an analyst expects that 20% of all publicly traded companies will experience a decline in earnings next year. 20% of the companies will expect a decline next year. That is, probability of decline is 20%. The analyst has developed a ratio to help forecast this decline. If the company is headed for a decline, there is 90% chances that this ratio will be negative. Analyst has constructed some ratio using some numbers. So if the company is going to go for a decline, this ratio will be negative. If the company is headed for a decline, there is 90% chance that this ratio that the analyst has constructed will be negative. We can represent this as a probability also. Probability of decline, given the ratio is negative, if the company headed for decline, there is 90% chance that this ratio would be negative. So ratio would be negative given there is decline. It's going to be N given D. It's equal to 90%. If the company is not headed for decline, there is only 10% chance that the ratio will be negative. We can lay it down through decision table, decision probability tree. It says that if the probability of decline is 20%, the probability of not decline, D complement, is 80%, right? Further, it says that if there is decline, there is 90% probability that whatever the ratio the analyst has calculated, it will be negative. And then, of course, the 10% probability that it will be positive, right? There is 80% chance that there will not be decline. And in that case, if the company is not headed for decline, there is only 10% probability of getting a negative return on the analyst ratio, and of course 90% chance of getting a positive. So we have just laid it down in decision tree. That was easily conceivable, unlike the previous question where I totally lost the track. Now, what are we required to do? We have constructed the tree. An analyst randomly selects a company with a negative ratio. Based on Bayes' theorem, the updated probability that the company will experience a decline. Let us lay down the numbers, whatever we have been given. We have been given the probability of decline 20%. Probability of a negative ratio given decline is 90%, right? What we are required to calculate, we are required to calculate, based on this Bayes theorem, the updated probability that the company will experience a decline. A company will experience a decline given a negative ratio. So using Bayes theorem, probability of a decline given negative ratio is equal to probability of negative ratio given a decline multiplied by the probability of decline upon probability of, just a minute, probability of a negative ratio. Okay. Now we need to plug in the numbers first. We have this first. Probability of a negative ratio given a decline is 90%. We can plug it here. Probability of decline has already identified in the beginning. It's 20%. And we need to calculate, this is the one that will require some effort, probability of a negative ratio. Now negative ratio, let me take the highlighter one first. The negative ratio will come either through this leg of the decision tree or the probability tree, this one, or it will come through this leg of the. Now let us calculate this one. 20% of 19, 20% of 90% or 90% of 20% gives you a probability of 18%. Of what? Of getting a negative ratio that the analyst has constructed. And 80% of 10 gives you, or 10% of 18 or 80% of 10 gives you 8%. So the total of this gives you 26%. This 26% is the probability of getting a negative ratio. So plugging this 26% in the denominator, using Bayes theorem, you will calculate the probability of decline given a negative ratio, and the solution of all this will give you 69%. Let me sum it up what I've done. An analyst has constructed a ratio, and if the company is going to go for a decline, the ratio will show a negative number, right? So it says that there is 20% probability that there will be decline, and in that case, the ratio will show a negative number, and 10% chance it will be positive. And if there is no decline, which is 80% probable, in that case, there is 10% probability that the ratio will be negative, and 90% probability will be positive. What we are required to calculate, based on the Bayes theorem, the updated probability that the company will experience a decline given a negative number. We were already given this probability at the beginning, Pn given D. We needed to calculate the probability of a negative number, which we used the decision tree for, and we plug it in the numbers, and we got the probability of a decline. Given the negative ratio, it's 69%, and that makes A to be the correct option. Next one is quite straightforward. A two-sided but a very thick coin is expected to land on its edge twice out of 100 flips. If we flip the coin 100 times, it will land on its head 2 times out of 100. So that means 2%. And the probability of face up and the probability of face down are equal. So out of 100 times, twice you will get the coin to land on its head, and the remaining probability, which is 98, will be split equally between head and tail. And this is landing on its side, edge. So these are the probabilities: head 49%, tail 49%, and edge 2%. Okay, what do we need to do now? When the coin is flipped, the price is $1 for head, $2 for tail, and $50 when the coin lands on its edge. $50. What are you required to do? Expected value. So these are the probabilities given. These are the payoffs. Simply multiply these payoffs with the probabilities and sum up the result. That is 2% of 50 plus 49% of 1, and 49% of 2 should give you a total of $2.47. That is C. C it is. The probabilities of earning a specified return from a portfolio are shown below. What are the odds of earning at least 20? What are the odds of earning at least 20? How many events are in your favor of earning 20% or more? 1, 2, and 3. These are in your favor. And how many are against you? 2. So it's 3 to 2. So what are the odds of earning at least 20? There are 3 events in your favor out of total 5, and 2 against you, so that's 3 to 2. So that makes C to be the correct option. C it is. Again, a repetition. But this time, why did I select this question? Because the information is given in a way that requires certain order to be given first. The joint probability function for returns on an equity index and return on a stock index given in the following table. Return on stocks, these are the probabilities given. Whenever you're given a question like this, if you're comfortable with this layout, fine. Well, and otherwise, I recommend what you need to do is separate your probabilities. That will make things a little easier for you. 25%, 45%, and 30%. And then we have these two different investments, return on stock index and equity index. And there they are, 24%, this one, 3%, or you can write it this way, and negative 0.15%. Return on the equity index, they are given horizontally, that is 0.16, 0.02, and negative 0.10. Now you have laid down all the workings. What are we required to do? Covariance of these two. We know, first step, you know how to populate the table. First, you will calculate the expected return on RS. Is going to be 25%. Let me just do it quickly. 25% of 24, 45% of 3, and 30% of this. And then you will do the same thing with this 25% 16, this and this. Just like we did in the previous example, we'll construct the table, previous one, this one. Or you can use your calculator function if you wish to and plug in the numbers and you will get your result, this one. So just like the previous question, you can plug in the numbers in the table and you can calculate the covariance we did a little while ago. Next question. Firm A can fall short, meet, or exceeds its earning forecast. Either fall short of the forecast, meet, or exceed the earning forecast. These are the three possible situations. Each of these events is equally likely. Equally likely means all of them are equally likely to occur, means there are three events. So it's going to be 1/3 probability of falling short of the earnings forecast, 1/3 of meeting the earning forecast, and 1/3 to exceed the earning forecast. Whether firm A increases its dividend will depend upon these outcomes. Respectively, the probabilities of dividends increase conditional on the firm's falling short, meeting, or exceeding the forecast is given 20, 30, and 50%. Means, if the firm falls short of its earning forecast, there is 20% probability that dividends will be declared. If they meet their earning forecast, 30% probability the dividend will be given. And if exceeds the forecast, the probability of declaring dividend goes up to 50%. What are we required to do? The conditional probability the dividend declared. Since we have been given the probabilities also 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3, and we have been given the likely situations in which the dividend will be declared 30, 20, and 50. All we have to do is simply take the weighted average of all these probabilities and you should get your result. 1/3 of 20, 1/3 of 30, and 1/3 of 50 will give you combined 33.33%, or you can write it in 0.333. That makes A to be the correct option. Straightforward question. Moving on. J. Hamilton CFA is analyzing Madison Incorporated, a distressed firm in difficulties. Hamilton believes the firm's survival over the next year depends on the state of the economy. Hamilton assigns probabilities to 4 economic growth scenarios and estimates the probability of bankruptcy for Madison's under each of the situations given. Economic growth scenario. In case of recession, when the GDP falls, its probability of scenario is 20%, and in that case, the probability of bankruptcy would be highest. If the growth is between 0 to 2%, which is 30% probable, the probability of bankruptcy is this. In case of the normal growth in the economy, bankruptcy probability will fall. And if there is a rapid growth in the economy, in that case, there will be very less chance of going bankrupt. Based on the Hamilton's estimate, the probability that Madison Incorporated does not go bankrupt in the next year is, since we have been given the probability of bankruptcy, first we will calculate the expected value of bankruptcy. Multiplying these probabilities with these probabilities of bankruptcy, you will get the expected Value bankruptcy is going to be 0.33. Now, if there is 33% of going bankrupt, what is the probability of not going bankrupt? Simply 1 minus 0.33, that is 67% or 0.67%. So sometimes questions might look big, but they might require very little working. Question 62. Thomas Baynes has applied both to Harvard and Yale, Ivy League. Baynes has determined that the probability of getting into Harvard is 25%. Probability of getting into Harvard is 25%. And probability of getting into Yale, his father's university where his father was studying, 42%. Baynes also has determined that the probability of being accepted at both schools, that is probability of Harvard intersects Yale, it's 2.8%. What is the probability of Baynes being accepted either Harvard or Yale? So probability of Harvard or Yale is equal to probability of Harvard plus probability of Yale less the common part between them, which is probability of Harvard intersects Yale. Probability of Harvard is 25% plus probability of Yale 42% minus probability of getting accepted in both universities 2.8. Net this off, you get your result 64.2%. That is C, quite high probability of getting accepted. The following table summarizes the availability of trucks with airbags and bucket seats at a dealership. Trucks with airbags and bucket seats. So having a truck with the bucket seats 75, airbags, no bucket seats 50, no airbags, bucket seat 35, and no airbags, no bucket seats 60. So there are 220 possible selection points from which we need to select. What is the probability of randomly selecting a truck out of these 220 with airbags and bucket seats? Airbags and bucket seats, we need both. Right here. Airbags and bucket seat both are available out of 220. Quite a straightforward question. So probability of getting both is simply 75 upon 220, and its simplification will give you 34%. That makes A to be the correct option. Now we are talking. An economist estimates 60% probability that the economy will expand next year. 60% probability that the economy will expand. The technology sector has 70% probability of outperforming the market if the economy expands, and 10% probability of outperforming the market if the economy does not expand. Now, if there is 60% possibility of or probability of economy expanding, what does it mean? It means then there is 40% of probability of economy doesn't expand. It further says that if the economy is doing well, there is 70% probability that technology does outperform. If there is 70% of probability of technology does outperform, it means 30% probability that technology doesn't outperform. Then if you see the second leg of the probability tree, 40% economy, 40% probability the economy doesn't expand. In that case, technology doesn't outperform is 10% given here. And in case if it does not outperform, it will be 100 minus 10, 90%. So this is the same information. I've just laid down the tree because to save time. Now if you just solve this, 60 times 70% gives you 42%. This is a situation when the technology does outperform given the economy does well. So I'm going to write it as probability of technology stock performing well given economies does well. Right? Second one, technology doesn't outperform, that is probability of T complement given the economy does well, and it's equal to 18%. Okay. Second part of it, technology does outperform, that is T, given that economy doesn't do well, that is E complement. And the last leg, probability that technology doesn't outperform and the economy is in bad shape also, is T complement, E complement. And at the back end, it is the probability of economy doing well and the probability of economy not doing well. Now this is the information that has been given. We have plotted in the probability tree. What are we required to find out? Given the new information that the technology sector will not outperform, The probability that the economy will not expand. Now, what we are required to calculate is the probability that the economy will not expand given the technology will not outperform. This is what we are required to find out. We do have PT complement, E complement, not the other way around. Here we need the Bayes theorem. What is the Bayes theorem? In reverse order, probability of T complement given E divided by probability of T complement multiplied by probability of E complement. This question is a perfect example of application of Bayes theorem. Let us plug in the numbers now. What do we have? Here we have the probability of T complement, E complement given right here. We need to calculate the probability of E, which is given here as well, 40%. We need to calculate the probability that the technology doesn't outperform. Probability that the technology doesn't outperform, it's going to be, let me highlight this part. The technology doesn't outperform. This is the leg showing technology doesn't outperform. Technology doesn't outperform. 18 and 36. This is the combined probability of P T naught. So the denominator is 18 plus 36 will give you 54%. Probability of economy not doing well, it's already given as 40%. And probability of technology stock not doing well, given economy is in bad shape, this is given right here. Right here, 90%. If you solve all this, you get your result. 90% of 40 divided by 0.54 gives you 67%. So that makes B to be your correct option. And as you can see, B it is. A supervisor is evaluating 10 subordinates for their annual performances reviews, 10 subordinates. According to a new corporate policy, for every 10 employees, 2 must be evaluated as exceeds expectation, 7 as meet expectations, and 1 as does not meet expectation. Out of these 10 people, since we are not taking groups only just need to label these individuals. So it's 10 factorial. Out of these 10, it says out of these 10, according to new corporate policy, for every 10 employees, 2 must be evaluated as exceed expectation. This is 2 factorial. 7 as meet expectations, that is 7 factorial. And 1 doesn't meet, that is 1 factorial, simply 1. If you just simplify all this, 10 factorial upon 2 into 7, it will give you 360 total labels, or you can say 360 total arrangements. So that will give you A to be the correct option. These are 360 ways that is possible for supervisors to arrange people. Next, 74. Pat Binder CFA is examining the effect of an inverted yield curve. Inverted yield curve is like this. If you take your years to maturity and yield, it's like this. Inverted yield curve is when the yields on bonds with shorter duration offering higher returns compared to those with the longer duration. It's an abnormal situation that is often a signal to an impending recession when your short-term rates are higher than the long-term rates. So this is what you call the inverted yield curve. It says she determines that in the past century, 75% of the times the yield curve has inverted. A bear market in stocks began within next 12 months. Whenever the yield curve was inverted, out of 100 times, 75% times the stocks began falling down. There was bearish market in stocks. Binder believes that the probability of an inverted yield curve in the next year is 20%. Binders estimate the probability that there will be an inverted yield curve in the next year followed by a bear market. So what we are talking about, probability of a bear market intersects with the inverted yield curve. It's equal to probability of bear market given inverted yield curve multiplied by the probability of inverted yield curve. It has given you explicitly 75% the probability when there is inverted yield curve. Given the inverted yield curve, there is bearish market for stocks. So it's straight 75%. Multiply this with the probability of inverted yield curve, which is independent. So multiplying these two will give you 15% the probability that is A to be the correct option. There is 40% probability that the economy will be good next year, 60% probability that it will be bad, means we have to draw this on probability tree, 40%, 60%, 40% good, 60% bad, and then further there will be three outcomes further. It says if the economy is good, there is 50% probability it will be bullish market, 30% probability it will be normal, and 20% probability it will be bearish. If the economy is bad, which is 60% probable, in that case, there will be 20% probability of having a bull market, a 30% probability of having a normal market, and 50% probability of having a bearish market. Full probability constructed, we may have to roll it back. What is the probability of a bull market? Now, not whole of it. What is the probability of bull market? This is bull here and bull here. Just this leg of, these two legs of your decision, of your probability tree, that is 40% of right here. That is 40% of 50 plus 60% of 20. Adding all this will give you the result 32%. That makes A to be the correct option. Quite straightforward question. Next. There is 60% chance that the economy will be good, similar to the previous one, and 40% chance that it will be bad. Let's lay down, maybe we have to solve it, just part of it. 60% economy will be good, 40% the economy will be bad. It further says that if the economy is good, there is 70% chance that the EPS will be $5 and 30% probability that it will be 3.5. And if the economy is bad, which is 40% probable, in that case there is 80% probability of having $1.5 of EPS and $1 in case there's a bad economy, and there's 20% probable. You just have to roll it back, and I'm sure you all know 70% of 5 plus 30% of 3.5, result will come here, 80% of 1.5, 20% of 1.5, and then again this times 60%, this times 40% will give you your final answer, and which I believe is 3.29. No twists whatsoever. B. Given the following table about employees of a company based on whether they are smokers or non-smokers and whether or not they suffer from any allergies, what is the probability of both suffering from allergies and not suffering from allergies? Probability of suffering from allergies and not suffering from allergies, they can't coexist. They cannot occur at the same time. They cannot occur at the same time. Absolutely right, gentlemen, ladies. It's not possible. It is not possible to have allergies and don't have it. So if they are mutually exclusive, their joint probability shouldn't be 0. So it means this is not the right answer. This is a totally ridiculous question. How can a person suffer from allergy and not suffer from allergy at the same time? So it's 0. Correct answer. Tina Fahe, CFA, believes stock price in the next quarter depends upon two factors: the direction of the overall market and whether the company's next earnings report is good or poor. This has been given to you already. The possible outcomes and some probabilities are illustrated in the tree diagram. The expected value of the stock if the market decreases is closest to. If the market decreases, we are talking about this leg of the decision tree or the probability tree, just this only. Just have to solve this yellow part. 60% of 40, 40% of 60 plus 6, this probability was missing. We just have to write this probability. If there is 40% probability of good earning, then 60% probability of poor earning. So simply $60 times 40% and $55 multiplied by 60%. And the sum of this should give you the result. I think it's 57. Straightforward, no twist in this question whatsoever. Next. Given the following table about employees of a company based on whether they are smokers or non-smokers and whether or not they suffer from allergies, what is the probability of being either non-smoker or not suffering from allergies? So we're talking about a probability of non-smoker, I'm going to label it as NS, or not suffering from allergies. Not suffering from allergies. So what we're going to do, let us first construct a Venn diagram. Okay, first this represents probability of non-smokers and probabilities of those with non-allergies, and this is the common area. Alright, first, probability of non-smokers. How many do we have who do not smoke? 240. So this part is 240 out of 300. Okay. Then what? Probability of those with having no allergies. So this represents 210. Don't suffer from allergies. It's going to be 210 divided by 300. Right. What about those who have these two areas common? That is, people who are not smokers and they do not have allergies. So the common part between these, representing those who do not suffer from allergies and they don't smoke, 185. This part will be here. So you'll write it as 185 out of 200. So 240 are the smokers, 240 by 300. 210 are don't suffer from allergies, 210 by 300. And out of these 185, they neither have allergies and they don't smoke. So what you have to do, probability of non-smokers, that is 240 by 300, plus probability of people with no allergies, 210 by 300, and from this we need to deduct those, the common part out of is 185 out of 200. So plugging these numbers in your calculator, fractional results, and it'll give you a final answer of 0.88, and that's what we have it here. Next. There is 50% chance that Fed will cut interest rates. 50% probability that there will be interest rate cut. On any given day, there is 67% chance that Dow Jones Industrial Average will increase. The probability of Dow Jones Industrial Average increasing is 67%. It's all given. Okay. On days the Fed cuts interest rates, the probability of Dow Jones Industrial Average will go up 90%. That is, probability of Dow Jones Industrial Average going up, provided there is a cut in interest rate, it is 90%. Right? We have laid down whatever is given. What is the probability that tomorrow the Fed will cut interest rates? Probability of cut in interest rates or Dow Jones Industrial Average goes up. Now for this, we need to calculate the probability of cut, which we have already, plus probability of Dow Jones Industrial Average going up, we have it as well, minus probability of Dow Jones Industrial's intersects cut. That's what we don't have. That is what we do not have. And we can calculate it separately. Probability of Dow Jones Industrial Average intersects cut is equal to probability of Dow Jones Industrial's increasing provided cut multiplied by probability of cut. We have it here. Probability of Dow Jones Industrial's increasing given there is a cut is 90%, and probability of cut is 50%. So 90% of 50%, that gives you 45%. You just have to plug in the numbers now. Probability of cut is given 50%. Probability of Dow Jones Industrial probability of Dow Jones Industrial Average going up is 67%, and this combined probability of Dow Jones and the cut given here is 45%. So it's going to be 50 plus 67 less 45 gives you 72%, and that makes C to be the correct option. Okay, next. There is 80% chance that economy will be good, 20% chance that it will be bad, similar to the question we have done. If the economy is good, 60% chance XBZ will give this much EPS. It's all the same. We have done it. I just took the size and didn't see that it is a repetition. Anyway, just jump to the next part. Tully Advisors Incorporated has determined 4 possible economic scenarios and has projected the portfolio returns for 2 portfolios for their client under each scenario. Tully's economist has estimated the probability of each scenario as shown in the table below. Given this information, what is the expected return on the portfolio? Now 15, 17, 20, 14, and he just asked for A, 25, 12 and 48. Multiplying these returns with the payoffs will give you the expected return on portfolio A. And that is all what you need. Straightforward. It's going to give you 11.55%. That gives you C to be the correct option. Next. And after that, it'll be over. Tully Advisors has given you this detail. What are we required to do? What is the standard deviation for portfolio B? First, you will calculate the mean return. Multiplying these probabilities with these returns in the portfolio, that will be 12.55. Using these numbers and this return, either you can do your work on the financial calculator, dividing it with 5 3 times, 4 times, 5 times and 8 times. That will be quite a lot of work for you. Else you use your conventional formula to calculate your standard deviation, that is equal to 15% times the difference between 19 minus 12.55 squared plus 0.2 times 18 minus 12.5 and so on, and you just do it in a conventional way and give you the standard deviation of the return on the portfolio, and that completes your question in Kaplan.